Is this part of an overall America First ideology, that this is about protecting American benefits for Americans?
Well, it's also making sure that those new immigrants come here with the skills to be able to succeed, because that does put a huge burden on the taxpayers. It puts a huge burden on our country. And as the president has said many times, he wants people coming to our country, the best, the brightest from around the world who can succeed in our country and not just go on to welfare programs. I mean, you have to think about it. When 58%, nearly 60% of immigrant households that are headed by an immigrant are receiving at least one form of welfare. We need to make sure that we're enforcing our laws and welcoming those who have the ability to succeed in this country and make us a better place. And that's why the president was right to call this a witch hunt from the beginning. It does not matter whether it's on tax returns, Russia, obstruction. They are not going to stop. No amount of information is ever going to satisfy them. They are in full resistance mode. And the fact that they're losing on just about every issue that's important to voters on 2020, it's the only thing they've got. Trillions of dollars that they are not explaining how they are going to get. They won't even tell the American people that they are going to raise taxes on the middle class to pay for their fantasy dreams of Medicare for all, socialized medicine, and those kinds of things. And I saw the headlines today were all about how the moderates were attacking the liberals, but I think Vice President Pence said it best today. This was the liberals fighting the socialists. There's no moderate anywhere in the room. What they're saying is just not true. They're lying to the American people. Paychecks are rising faster for people in the lower and middle income areas than they are for people at the higher end of the income scale. People are showing it in their consumer confidence numbers. We're seeing it in small business. And when it comes to the immigration debate, let's remember for a moment here that more people died trying to cross the border in the first 2 years of the Obama-Biden years than did in the first 2 years of President Trump. Where was the Democrat outrage there?
Marc.
I don't see how you can continue serving on a committee about intelligence when you've shown such lack of intelligence over the last 2 years, using your position and your access to classified information and supposedly misleading people into something that we all know not to be true. Whether the voters in his district will hold him accountable is one thing, but his fellow members should say that he's embarrassed the United States Congress, he's embarrassed that committee, and the 2 years of lies to the American people must be held to account. Look, Bob Mueller, he could testify for 10 hours. It won't change his conclusions, which is no obstruction, no collusion. And no matter how much he talks, those conclusions will remain the same.
So are you worried for Uncle Joe?
Well, if you watch a lot of the mainstream media, including the Washington Post, they're saying that Democrats should be worried that they've got to rethink the status of their front runner. But let's make one thing clear. These aren't gaffes. This is a pattern for Joe Biden. I mean, this is his third time running for president. He has been gaffe prone since then. And you would think the third time is a charm, but it's the same old blundering Biden. Well, I think he's making sure that we set the record straight that Joe Biden is pretending to be something that he's not. It's very telling when the defense secretary under President Obama, one of Joe Biden's colleagues in the West Wing, was saying that Joe Biden has been on the wrong side of every domestic or national security and foreign policy issue going back for 4 decades. So I think it sets the record straight. It's also letting the people know that if you're going to nominate Joe Biden, you're going to have a fight and you're going to show weakness again on the world stage. I think if Jimmy Carter's speech was known as the malaise speech back in the 70s, Joe Biden's speech yesterday was the abdication speech, abdicating U.S. leadership to other countries around the world. No, because his higher purpose was his own purpose, not the needs of the government, not the needs of the Justice Department or the FBI. The IG report said you set a dangerous precedent for the tens of thousands of people that work in that department that think they can put their judgment, their personal partisan beliefs above the law, above the needs of our country, and that is not something that we can stand for. Well, I think that's a misinterpretation of his record. He's definitely not a moderate. He's come out for open borders. He's come out for giving illegal immigrants free government-funded health insurance. And so, I mean, these are very radical positions. He's even flip-flopped. After 40 years, he now supports taxpayer-funded abortion on demand. I mean, these are the kinds of positions that are not moderate. And you've got to remember, too, if Joe Biden is struggling this much in a field, a 20-person field, it's like a socialist clown car. Imagine all of them combined are not nearly as difficult as beating President Donald J. Trump next year.